Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tailgate Talk. We're your hosts, David and Nick. Nick, say hi to the people.
Howdy.
All right, today, guys, we're going to talk about the Clemson Syracuse game, a top 15 matchup going down to the wire. And so we're just going to go ahead and recap that game for you guys. Uh, Final score 27-21 in favor of the Tigers. But Syracuse had the lead going all the way into the fourth quarter. So it was a tough game. A lot of calls going different ways, a lot of turnovers, just a whole lot going on in that game that we're going to dissect today. So Nick, you want to get us started?
Sure. Like you said, it was a close game. I even said I thought that Syracuse after that sequence where Shipley fumbled and DJ threw a pick like that right before Cade came in, I said we're gonna lose this game. Like it was not a fun first three quarters, but Dabo making the move to bring in Cade to kind of spark the offense a little bit. It worked. I would like to point out that Dabo did say that going forward it's still DJ. I believe in that. I think everyone has a bad game. I don't think that it's I think it's more DJ's more the player he's been showing coming into this game than out of it. Or I mean, obviously I just meant like he's more the player before this game than the player that showed up to this one. I think everybody has a bad day. Unfortunately, his came at a moment where everyone was looking at Clemson. Um, just off the top of my head, 4 turnovers are unacceptable. Can't do that and expect to win games like that. Defense, when you think about it, realistically, they gave up 14 points because they weren't on the field for that fumble recovery for a touchdown. So I think they played very well. As much as I think that Clemson pushed the right buttons, I do think Syracuse kind of messed themselves up, but by not giving Sean Tucker the ball in the second half. I do not understand that. I think in the second half, I saw a statistic that said he had like 5 carries and one of them was like 15, one of them was 20 yards, one of them was 13. Like, if you're having success, why, and you know he's your best player, why would you not give him the ball? I just don't understand that. Obviously, like you said, the calls were a little funny. I think that the main difference between the call that they called a late hit against Syracuse when they hit Cade out of bounds and not calling the hit of Syracuse Garrett Schrader out of bounds. Syracuse's player, I forget who it was, made contact with Cade out when he was out of bounds. Jeremiah Trotter made contact while Garrett Schrader was still inbounds. So that's why I believe it wasn't called. I saw a lot of people upset saying that the refs are wanting Clemson to, or they got Clemson has them in their back pocket and all this crap. You can't look at the offensive film for Syracuse and say that not calling a hold on 80% of their offensive plays is beneficial to Clemson. So I think people need to stop talking about the refs. I think it was pretty bad for both teams.
If you look at stats wise, Syracuse is one of the most penalized teams over the entire year. They're averaging like 9.5 penalties per game, and about 73 yards of penalties. Against Clemson, they had 10 penalties for 88 yards, so pretty much right on par with what they had. And honestly, you could take away one of the penalties at the end of the half that was a delay of game when they were about to take a knee. So really, you're looking at 9 penalties, 83 yards. You're right on the average for the season. So I think that, and like you said, Nick, I feel like most of the offensive snaps you could have seen a blatant hold, not just a hold, a blatant hold against Syracuse. So it could have been more. I just think that they in the second half when the crowd started coming alive, Syracuse just started making more mistakes as teams do in the Valley. Um,
38 in a row.
yeah, 38 in a row, and let's keep going, right? Um, I agree with the same kind of assessment. When I was looking at the play, it was with Cade, it was third and like 29 or 19 or something. really long down in distance. He pretty much gained like 5 yards back and was heading out of bounds to, save himself. So I felt like he was watching it real time. It looked like he was giving himself up. Watching it on replay, maybe not as much, but still, he was out of bounds when he got hit. Garrett Schrader, meanwhile, forced out of the pocket. By the way, Trenton Simpson was held on that play. Otherwise, he would have sacked him.
Blatant.
And, Jeremiah Trotter was facing him down, trying to prevent him from getting an accurate pass. So he was making contact before he comes out. I think that those are just two different situations that I'm okay with. I would have been fine if they called it or didn't call it. I think that though, if you did call Trotter, then there should have been also a hold. So either way, I think that play at worst, it just gets replayed. So
Yeah.
I'm not looking at, if that's the one play you're looking to call as the ref handing it to Clemson, then you need to watch football more and understand how things work. These one plays aren't at all. And even with that play, Syracuse had a chance to go down and try and score to win the game, and Schrader throws a pick at the end for Clemson to seal it. So, I don't want to put it on the refs. I think that ACC refs in general have been extremely inconsistent all year, and this is nothing new. So it's something that is just out of your control. But when you look at the stats, they pretty much Syracuse is right on par for what they've been doing all year. And even when you take out like their worst game where they had 18 penalties and their best game to try and average it out more, it still is at right at nine penalties a game, and even more yards, closer to what that average would have been, on Saturday night. So
Yeah.
for all the, I'm getting a little heated here for all the Syracuse fans and the still moaning about the calls. You had 4 turnovers. You had one that you took back to the house that was really I think the big momentum swing. It felt like Clemson was moving the ball up and down the field all game long, and then that was their second drive. That felt like that put Clemson on on their heels. But they were running the ball over the place, averaging like 5 yards a clip. I mean, Clemson's offense was moving the ball and just pounding it. And Syracuse came up with timely turnovers, and give them credit. They had a really good defensive game plan. I think it confused DJ. Stomping on his hand helped too, I'm sure. But they give Syracuse credit. Their defense had DJ figured out and made him look really bad on Saturday.
Yeah. And that's one of the things of like giving Syracuse their respect. I feel like the national media is continuing to not do. Joel Klatt, I don't know if you saw the tweet that he posted, but he was saying, like, do we really think that if we put Clemson in the Big Ten of the SEC, they're not coming in third in their division? And just basically saying, like, winning at home the way they did, it's beyond preposterous to me that, again, we're getting punished for winning at home close. This is a top 15 team in the country we're talking about here. Like, it's not it'd be one thing if this was Louisiana Tech. If this was Louisiana Tech, fine. You can have that narrative. This is a top number 14 team in the country, undefeated, best defense in the conference, statistically. It's supposed to be a close game. There's nothing wrong with beating them close. And saying that Clemson wouldn't be able to handle a Big Ten or an SEC schedule is just bullcrap at this point, because I think I saw a tweet, and their last 20 games, Clemson's 14-6, and they're not playing the Missouris, the Vanderbilts, the lower level teams of the SEC. They're playing Alabama, they're playing South Carolina every year. Well, I don't know about giving them.
Oh, dude, that hurts our schedule. You know that.
Yeah.
Every
They
year.
play Georgia. They play Georgia. They play Alabama. They play Ohio. It's not like they're playing Iowa or they're playing Maryland or Rutgers. They're playing Ohio State. That's the Big Ten team that we play. So to sit there and say that we can't hang with them when we've proven for years that we can, it's stupid, it's asinine, and I think it's just people talking out of their butt. Like, it's it's just
It's
ridiculous. It's so infuriating.
yeah, it's lazy reporting. I think I'm looking at these takes from Joel Klatt and from Heather Dinich, and to me it feels like they're watching the first half of the game, looking at the score, and then they write their column because they got to go on to the next game. I mean, it's just they're folks. It feels like they've got the agenda for who writes their paycheck, the SEC, the Big Ten, those networks. And it's just they're trying everything that they can to not look at the stats. I mean, if you watch the game, you could tell Clemson was the better team. They were moving the ball up and down the field. Their defense, like you said, Nick, gave up 14 points. 14 points. In the second half, they were dominant. It and that there's a reason why that Syracuse was getting called for holds because the defensive line was that good.
Yeah.
It's just not watching the games, I think. Because I'll give credit where credit's due. I think that Tennessee has been phenomenal this year. Ohio State's looked dominant. They played one team with a winning record, and that's Toledo.
Hey, that's
They
big. Bad
played
Toledo
one game. They played one game away. That was Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State's that good this year. They're what 3-4.
They're not good this year.
Georgia struggled against two lesser
Opponents.
tier teams and nothing really is spoken about that. But you've got Clemson playing 3 top 15 teams at the time, 3 top 25 teams, we'll call it now, just to be fair that we're going latest rankings. 3 top 25 wins. They have the most out of any of the top 10. And they're being treated like they're not playing anybody. They're being treated like, having close games against top ranked teams is not okay if you're an ACC team. It's a narrative that's been there for a couple of years and no one's willing to change their stance on it and accept that, the ACC, at least especially the Atlantic, is freaking deep. It's deep. You've got Clemson, you've got Syracuse, you've got Wake, you've got NC State, not to mention Florida State has looked really, really good. Even in those losses to the top 3 teams in the Atlantic, they were within 1 score. Let's see what they do the rest of the season. But Florida State's on the up and up, and then on the other side, you've got UNC with a high-powered offense. No defense still, but they've got a high-powered offense. You've got Pitt that's a tough team too. I think it's the narrative that the coastal cannibalizes itself is just making it look like parity all of a sudden means all teams are crap. It could mean that all teams are just evenly matched and relatively good. So,
and
I mean,
kind of
look at Tennessee went to overtime against Pitt, and you're going to tell me that Pitt's a crap team? They're the only team that, other than Alabama, that held Tennessee close.
It's just lazy. It's people getting to a narrative and sticking to it no matter what. And I brought up the ACC Atlantic standings right now just to kind of get a sense for how bad it is. You got so there's 7 teams in the division. How many do you think right now are going to go bowling?
6.
Yeah, I would agree because you got Clemson already 8-0. That's bowl game already. Syracuse 6-1, bowl eligible. Wake Forest 6-1, bowl eligible. Florida State's 4-3. I think they have at least 2 more wins on their schedule. Louisville 4-3. I think they have at least 2 more wins on their schedule. NC State's 5-2. I think they have another win on their schedule. And then there's just Boston College. And I mean, 6 teams in a division bowl eligible. Are you you can't tell me that. I don't think Michigan State's making a bowl out of the Big Ten East. I don't think Indiana's making a bowl out of the Big Ten East. Rutgers is 4-3 right now. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't get to 6 wins. And then you look at the SEC West. Auburn's 3-4, A&M's 3-4, Arkansas is 4-3. Those are and they have to play the toughest teams in the toughest conference. Maybe they don't make bowls either. The ACC Atlantic has 6 teams that I believe will be bowling, and apparently it's not good. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
So
And
I mean, it is
just
what
it
it
feels
is.
like that it's the national media narrative that's going on. There's not really a voice that is sticking up for the ACC other than Danny Cannell, Mark Packer, and a little bit the huddle guys. But it's ridiculous. It's insane because you've got these other voices that are running that narrative because of the money behind those two conferences in the Big Ten and the SEC. And
And
that also speaks kind of to what the ACC needs to do to stay relevant. They need to start pumping more money into the college football scene. They need to figure out what's going on with their media rights because if they don't, then this is just going to keep squeezing the ACC teams out, regardless of how good they actually are. They're not going to have the money to stick up for themselves,
yeah.
basically.
And unfortunately, Danny Cannell has a history of being a little bit too biased, so people don't take him as seriously as you would want the person championing for your conference to be. And you know what? It's fine. Keep that same energy. You're playing into exactly how Dabo wants to be. He wants his teams to be disrespected. He wants to be able to say, "Hey, we're just little old Clemson. They don't believe in us. Let's go prove them." So, and then they're gonna get mad when Clemson fans bring that up, and when Dabo brings it up. And you know what? That's fine. But thank you. Keep that energy. We're gonna appreciate it. And come playoff time. Thank you.
Yep. Clemson's got a bye week this week, much needed bye week after 8 straight weeks. I think I saw KJ Henry's about to take naps the whole 2 weeks to catch up. So I think the guys are definitely ready to get a rest on before they have to go to they got to go to
Notre
Notre
Dame.
Dame. Big matchup there, brand wise. Notre Dame having a bit of a down season, looking good, and then coming back and losing a game they shouldn't lose to Stanford. They got the loss to Marshall and the loss to Ohio State. So, Notre Dame trying to figure themselves out still too. They've got a big matchup against Syracuse this week. So we'll see if they can come into the game against Clemson with some momentum. But that's going to be a big matchup to start off the what Clemson likes to call their championship phase that starts in November. And then, regardless of how that game goes, Clemson
Minus
has
prejudice.
Clemson has a chance to clinch the ACC Atlantic the week after against Louisville. It's the military appreciation game, so it's supposed to be a purple out. We'll see if we do purple jerseys and the orange breeches for winning the Atlantic, potential to win the Atlantic. That's a Clemson tradition that Dabo's kind of re-energized, the orange breeches for championship type games, whether it's winning the division, the conference, bowl game, national championship. That's the only time you'll see the Tigers wearing orange breeches, or the state. Can't forget the state in South Carolina. So big games coming up. Clemson's got a little bit more meat left on their schedule, but they've gotten through I think what is probably the hardest test with the with Wake Forest, NC State, and Syracuse. And
And Florida State.
we'll see which team. Yeah, and Florida State. Can't forget Florida State. So we'll see what happens. I think Clemson's going to need to be undefeated if they want to make the playoff.
Oh yeah.
So it's just going to be a week. You take your week by week, get your bye week done, win the bye week, get rested. Maybe we'll see some carnage. Although this week I don't really think I see a whole lot of carnage coming up with some of these lines. Nick and I were just going through it, and dear God, I think we're gonna be betting against the spread on our Friday show, Nick.
You know what? That's where I get in trouble because I'm behind. Really quick, speaking of traditions, Clemson doesn't rush the field. It's called gathering at the paw. We do it every game, win or lose. Enough. I'm done. I'm sick of seeing that. It's our thing. Okay,
Keep hating
that's
on
it.
us. We don't care. We're gonna just keep going there, getting pictures with our favorite players, and we won't have to pay a fine like the SEC teams do. So suck on that.
Maybe that's why they're mad. They're jealous.
Yeah, they got to pay $100,000 every time they do it. Whoops. Clemson just says, you know what? It's fun. We'll do it. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for joining. And as always, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.